Welcome to Double Fries, No Slaw, Wednesday night, October 23rd. Richie doing a Miami preview that thought maybe before the season might be a little more excited about this than we are. So appreciate Guthrie's Bet US and Roback for their love and support. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But Richie, how's your week been before we get into this preview?
It's actually been good in the sense that, there's no need to be nervous about the game or anything like that. Just going through work. I got my day shift manager is on vacation all week, so I'm trying to pick up the slack for him a bit. But yeah, it's been a good week, and I'm I don't want to say excited for Saturday night, but we're here. We show up every week, and we will continue to do so.
One way or the other, we'll be here, happy or not. So. Yeah, no, it's been a good week. Liberty plays tonight, so they're still undefeated. I know that doesn't. It's been a little kind of what would you call it? Like relief, but not a lot. I know I went there, but Florida State's still the thing. So yeah. I have retweet every week. I've retweeted the on 3 graphic that's retweet this if your team's still undefeated because Liberty's on there, and every week I get Gator fans, Kane fans, Tia from Alabama will reply why are you retweeting this? And I'll be I'll just send them back a Liberty Flames gif. And so anyway, I have zero joy in my life about them at all, but they play a fun offense, so it's fun to watch. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. If you're up that way this weekend, there is a baseball series, I believe, or a game against Alabama. I saw their, Florida State's baseball schedule was released this weekend. They come to Tampa this year, but if you're in Tallahassee, checking out the baseball game or just avoiding South Florida for any number of reasons, make sure you stop by Guthrie's and get your gut box double fries, no slaw. I've spoken with a few people this week, Richie, on the West Coast and stuff, just for different national college football games and stuff, and they're what does that mean? What's double fries mean? So having to explain that to them is Zaxby's. Well, they still, So anyway, double fries, no slaw, here on a Wednesday night to preview this game. I don't really want to say anything else about the Duke game. I think we did plenty of that last week, so I guess we can get right into Miami, either fortunately or unfortunately. Number 6 team in the country, Miami Hurricanes, Saturday night at Hard Rock Stadium. Richie, I know that obviously the answer is that you're more surprised about Florida State being 1-6, but I'm a little surprised. I thought Miami, we say this every year. We say that they have a paper tough schedule. They never play anybody. But I will tell you, I am a little bit surprised that they're undefeated right now. I thought they would trip up to a Virginia Tech or a Florida or a Louisville. Now, I didn't think anybody else would beat them. FAMU, Ball State, USF, Cal. I didn't think any of those teams would trip them up. But I will say, and Florida's obviously not as big as us, but a dumpster fire the last 3 or 4 years too. So I guess I'm not shocked that they beat Florida, but I thought that would be a competitive game. Virginia Tech was, Louisville was, but I will say they haven't played anyone. Louisville's the best team they've played so far. But I'm a little impressed that Miami's 7-0. I wouldn't have expected that. If I would have asked you before the season, did you think Miami would be undefeated coming to this year or in this game? I'm sorry.
No, absolutely not. And it makes it that much more frustrating as a Florida State fan who I thought we'd be, 6-1 coming into this game. And, College game day is likely there. And it's a huge game and the rivalry has returned. But no, and Cam Ward, to his credit, I gave him a ton of crap for how often he puts the ball on the ground and turns the ball over. And he's really been able to limit that this year. And I think it's been a pretty balanced offense. They have not asked him to run the ball a ton. And and look, when you're in a Power 4 conference, I guess we'll call it now, if you're 7-0, that's a great start. My only hope and slight evidence the last 3 weeks is I am getting a little bit of 2017 Miami vibes where they started off the season, 10-0 and lost their final 3 games. They had that big win over Notre Dame when they were number 5 in the country down at Hard Rock. Then they lost to Pitt. They lost to Clemson in the ACC championship game, and they lost to Alex Hornibrook, of all people, in Wisconsin in the Orange Bowl. But yeah, if I'm a Miami fan, I'm extremely excited. And I'm very happy. Cam Ward is number 2 currently in the Heisman odds. Odds are he will end up in New York because they're not really going to play anybody the rest of the regular season. When it comes to the New York Athletic Club, no matter how you play in your conference championship game, that doesn't really get held against you because they've kind of already made their decision at that point. But yeah, I'm a little surprised. They've been playing with fire a bit the past month or so with Virginia Tech, Cal, and Louisville. Definitely last week with Louisville, I went to bed thinking for sure they were going to lose, and sure enough, I wake up and there's some Cam Ward magic, and Miami remains
Bro, what
undefeated.
time did you go to bed? That game was at noon.
Oh, was that one at noon? I must have
Yeah.
just. Oh no, you know what it was then? I was following the scores,
Oh, okay.
and I had
Looked over.
something else going on, a lot more important on Saturday that I didn't
Yeah.
really watch any football.
Yeah. I feel you. I was like, bro, but you didn't go to bed. Like, I know you. I mean, like, I know you go to bed early, but like,
I saw the final. Well, I was drinking since noon that day, so the things get a little mushy there.
had some things going on. So yeah, no, they're a good team. And we'll talk about them more, but I think, all rivalry, all trolls, all jokes aside, like there's still a lot to laugh at about just Miami's program in general, but yeah, they're a really good team. I don't know that they're quite on, but this year okay, I'll back up. This year in college football, the thing with Miami is at their absolute best, I think they could beat about anybody, but maybe Georgia. I think Georgia's defense would give them pretty big problems. But I think, the other side of that is they could lose to anybody. I mean, they nearly lost to Cal, so like they're not like just a lock. They could get into the playoff and win the first two games, or they could get in and lose round one, right? To a 10-2 Bama or a 10-2 Tennessee or something like that, right? Like they could, I think they could kind of beat anybody and they could also lose anybody. So they are a really good team. And so, yeah, it makes it more frustrating that you're, kind of having the struggles that you did after the year that you had. So right now, a 3-touchdown favorite. It's a little interesting to me that hasn't moved. I do kind of expect, that line to move on game day. It feels like one that I could see getting up to like 21 and a half, 22, 23. I don't know that it would cross the 24-point line, but I kind of expect, like we see a lot of times late Friday night, early Saturday morning movement. I could see that thing moving a little bit. I think some injuries that I've tweeted about, I'll just kind of say it, like I don't mind, but I think those will be kind of confirmed, and I could see that line moving a little bit. I don't expect Darius Washington to play in this game. I don't expect Cam Davis to play in this game. I don't know that Cam Davis moves the line a lot, and again, I don't know that Darius Washington moves the line a ton by himself, but he's been one of your better offensive linemen, and he's not been great, but having to put Rob Scott or somebody else in there surely isn't a good thing. So an over-under of 54. So what's that like? Are they projecting like a 40 to
38-16-ish?
Yeah, 40 to 14 ish. Yeah, that would be it. 40 to 14 would 41-14 final score. 38-16 would work, I guess. So yeah, we could see somewhere. Oh yeah, you're right. 38-16 because I didn't do the spread. I was just kind of doing the score. So 38-16. Yeah, I could see that. 16 actually would be kind of be a win. That's 16 is what the most we've scored on U.S. soil. So if we can do that, I guess, against Miami's defense, it is. Like, I'm not making a joke. I'm not hating right now. I'll hate later. But, like, 16 is the most we've scored on U.S. soil, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe
so. I saw this. I saw this stat today by Tim Reynolds, actually, by Tim Reynolds on Twitter. Florida State's the only FBS school to not have scored over 21 points this year.
Yep.
That's crazy. That is insane. I don't expect that to change tonight. Okay, so talking about Cam Ward, I do think he's great. I do think with the injury to Travis Ward, and I expect the Boise running back to maybe cool a little bit. Like, I don't know if his stats can stay as insane as they've been at 10 yards a pop, but maybe they will, and maybe he'll find a way to win. I think Cam has a great chance to win it. Now, if they lose a game, maybe not, but he'll be there either way. Like, they could lose this game and they win their next 5 and they'll be fine. He'll still go. He might not win it if they lose this game as a 21-point favorite at home. But Cam's got a great chance to win it. Somebody asked me this, and I want to get your take on it. They asked me what I was most concerned about as a Florida State fan, and my joking answer was, well, I'm concerned that we're getting on the flight and having to go down there and play the game. But I'm actually more concerned about, and this is no shot at Cam Ward, to any Miami fans that'll maybe watch this later and get in the comments. So, like, I'll try and explain this so that I don't offend people, which people just live to be offended on the internet, so who cares? I'm actually less worried about Cam Ward because I do have some faith in our defense. Not like last year faith in defense, but I have some faith in our defense. I think we're the best defense they've played so far. And so I'm actually less worried about Cam Ward in this game and more worried about their defensive line, which I also think is top 5 in the country. And I have more faith in our defense than I do our offensive line or our quarterbacks to recognize the pressures or get out of the pressures. And so Cam Ward is not even really what worries me the most in this game. No, he still worries me a ton. He's still the best quarterback in college football so far this year. But my bigger concern is their defensive front versus our offensive front. Am I crazy for that, Richie? For not saying that the Heisman quarterback is my biggest worry here?
I don't think so because you got to look at the defense has been solid. They're obviously not last year, and I think what worries me about that is the 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. That's when Cam Ward is at his best. Even if you get to him, he's been a Houdini actor, just escaping people and making plays, extending plays. I think that definitely worries me. On a down-to-down basis, Ward is probably not my biggest worry just because of how bad the offense is and how do you manufacture points. You're not going to have a 12-play, 75-yard drive. It's just extremely unlikely. And, Miami's defensive line is far better than what Duke has. And while I do think we had more time than it looked like in real time watching the game against Duke, I just think you have young quarterbacks who don't know how to process a defense quickly enough. But I think a guy like Ruben Bain, who currently leads the nation in QB pressures, with Darius Washington out, is he going to have a field day? I think he will. Yeah. I think he's going to have to get creative on how he calls this game offensively. But with the personnel you have, like, how creative can you really get? You got to pray for a 2018 type play on the double pass that eventually got called back when Florida State was in command of the game down in Hard Rock Stadium and Miami came back to win. I just think I just see no hope offensively. And, to win the game, and this is crazy talk right now, just the thought of to win the game, your offense is going to need more than 0 offensive touchdowns like they had against.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it would be like, it wouldn't surprise me if Florida State held Miami, and I'm not predicting this, and we'll do score predictions later, but like, it wouldn't shock me if Florida State held Miami to like 31 points in this game. Yeah. Now, with a competent offense that could like move the ball a little bit and use some clock, my worry is that we give Miami like 14 possessions and that allows them to score more. But if our offense could be like if you could count on your offense to score 24 points, like just be a below average offense and score, what would that be? 24 points is what, 5 times you kick a couple field goals. That would make me feel like, okay, well, you're going to have the ball long enough to where maybe my only scores like 31, 38, 35, somewhere in that range. It's hard for me to really see Florida State's offense getting above 17 in this game. First of all, they haven't done that again in America. And so it's hard for me to think that they're all of a sudden just going to go down to Hard Rock and score more than they've scored all year. And then again, if you look at that Georgia Tech game, you had a really nice scripted drive to start, and then you really only scored 14 points in that game past the scripted drive, right? Yeah. And so, to me, I'm not super worried about Miami's offense just killing us outside of the fact that they're going to have a million possessions, I would assume. I'm worried about our offense being able to put up any points at all. Like, if Florida State's offense beats their yearly total of 21, I mean, I'd be shocked. I would absolutely be shocked. And you're right. You're going to need things like a punt return touchdown, which you got in 2018, or a kick return touchdown, which you got last week, and Miami gave up a kick return touchdown. So, like, there are, weird things happen in rivalry games. I mean, we've had punt return and kick return touchdowns against this team before. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do something crazy. But yeah, you're going to need a trick play to work. You're going to need a 50-yard bomb to be, caught in the end zone. You're going to need some kind of dynamic, you're probably going to need Cam to throw you a couple of picks. You're probably going to need one of those picks to go back for a touchdown, because if it doesn't, are you confident in the offense getting the ball in the end zone? And so, yeah, to me, that's kind of my worry. And so Cam's really great, but it's kind of wild that he's the best player, one of the best players in college football, if not the best, this year. And he's not even really what I'm the most worried about. That's how bad the offense is.
You talk about the anatomy of an upset, right? To your point, you need a big special teams play. Can you block a punt when you do get a 3-and-out? Because I do think Florida State gets 1 or 2 3-and-outs. The defense, again, the team is just so bad. I think people are thinking the defense is worse than it actually has been, and they're not great. They're not world beaters, but they're good enough to hold Miami in check on a few possessions. That won't last the entire game, and it gets really annoying when you have a 3-and-out or a 5-play possession and you get off the field and give your offense decent field possession, and then they give you a 3-and-out, and you get literally 10 minutes of real time just to rest, and then you're right back out on the field. So you need to have a big special teams play or two. You need to get lucky on turnovers. If you win the turnover battle 4-0 like Duke did last week, okay, now you have a chance. And I don't think either of us are going to pick Florida State to win, but that's the one thing about college football is that you see upsets like this more regularly now than you used to. I think the first big one I remember was USC, and I might have been in high school at the time. They were 41.5-point favorites over Stanford, and Stanford beat them. Yeah. And that happens more and more regularly. You talk about App State over Michigan in 2007, and it seems like more than just 1 or 2 a year these days. But how many of those come in rivalry games where the head coach for your opposing team played in this rivalry? Like, this rivalry is in his blood, and if there's an opportunity for him to hang 50, 60 points, he is going to do it, possibly to the detriment of maybe getting some of his players hurt, which I certainly hope does not happen. But he's going to leave his starters in longer than he would if this was against Georgia Tech or Duke or Stanford or any other ACC school. This game, he remembers 2 years ago when Mike went in there and won that game 45-3, and Mike did kind of run up the score a little bit there, which I think was a smart move. And I think in rivalry games, you should always run the score up if you can. It's different when it's another conference team or, you're not going to run it up against a Charleston Southern intentionally unless it's with your third stringers. But I could see Mario saying, this is a huge opportunity. I saw a tweet that Miami's going to have something like 130 recruits and 80 plus blue chips at the game. Yeah. He is not going to waste that opportunity. And this is a huge game for Mike. He does not need to win it. This season is done. And no FSU fan will be happy with him, even if they run at the table and win the bowl game. The damage is done. Just the start to the season and the loss to Duke, the damage is done. There's no salvaging this season whatsoever. But I think it is important for Mike to try and keep it as close as possible. And my fear is I'd almost rather get blown out than him play, just to keep it close and overly conservative. Go for broke. Try and knock him off. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, okay, like I'm not going to say I disagree with like go for it, right? Like try and win. But if you offered me right now, Richie, a 7-point loss, like I would take that without blinking.
Oh, like 100%. No doubt.
Without even thinking about it. And I agree with that. Like you could win out and win the bowl game and finish. What would that be? 7-6? Are we 1-6 right now? Yeah, you could finish 7-6. And again, it's not going to be enough. Now you'd feel a little bit better. Like, okay, well maybe we are trending back up for next year. That would be with a lot of young guys. Obviously, to have done that, you'd have to have 2 top 10 upsets. You'd beat both rivals. You'd feel a little bit better about the trajectory of the program. But maybe a big problem with that is it's like UF. Like I'm watching UF fans right now. I believe they've won like 4 of their last 5. Maybe?
Yeah, they're 4-3 on the year.
Yeah, and so. And you know what they're saying? Like they beat Kentucky, and they're saying, where was this earlier? Yeah. Where was this against Miami? Where was this against A&M? Where was this? Like why did we blow it against Tennessee? So like even the wins don't matter. Now, if you win this, we are going to celebrate it. Like there's, it'll be the one bright spot on a crap sandwich. But yeah, let's be honest about what we really think may or may not happen. One thing that's been really good for Miami, Cam is obviously super. Super accurate. You have this 70%. He does throw like a boneheaded pick every once in a while. They've certainly played against Power 4 competition. He's had some incredible moments, and then he's had some pretty boneheaded moments where he just kind of like does something really stupid, kind of like a Brett Favre or Jameis Winston type play, where he's just going to do something absolutely idiotic. It's probably going to be a pick 6. And then he throws like 4 straight touchdowns to finish a game. Like he really does lock in after he does that. So it's hard to think that he would do it like 6 times, and like leave you in it. Remember 2021, Van Dyke had like 3 picks in the first half. I can't see Ward doing that. And even if he does, like Miami could score 35 points in the second half like they did against Cal and come back and still beat you. So it really is like it's tough to try and find that anatomy of an upset. I will say about Florida State, and then we'll kind of move on a little bit more about Miami. I think this is probably true for both teams. Like Miami played down a little bit when they played Cal. They played down a little bit when they played Virginia Tech at home. I don't think they played down last week. I think Louisville's just a pretty good team who has 3 top 15 losses by a score each. Louisville's 4-3 and lost to 3 really good teams. And so SMU, Notre Dame, and Miami, all by 1 score. And so I will say, I think Florida State does get up for this, just like they got up for Clemson. But the other side of that is I think Miami gets up for this. Like they don't care that Florida State's 1-6. Like they won't play down to competition like they did against Cal. They will play up because of the rivalry, because they understand what this game means, because of the way that they got embarrassed a couple of years ago. There's still plenty of guys on this team that remember that, and I know Ward wasn't there, but I do think that that's a big deal. And so you're not going to get that advantage. And really Florida State never does. Like teams might play down against a Boston College or a Georgia Tech, but nobody's going to play down against Florida State. It's like when the Lakers or the Yankees or the Cowboys are bad. Nobody's like, oh, well, they're bad this year, so we don't care about beating the Yankees or the Lakers. It's like, no. We want to beat like the best franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what Florida State's kind of problem is going to be, is like nobody's going to take them lightly. Like Charleston Southern's going to get up and think like, dude, we can upset this team. Like, why not? Duke did like, so yeah, that's the other issue. So I think it becomes harder, but I do think Florida State will play. I think they'll play with a lot of intensity. I think they'll play with a lot of effort. I don't really know how good the focus will be. I don't really know how good the execution will be. But similarly to that Clemson game, I think they'll play hard. That's a very low barrier. We've talked about that at times, but I do think they'll play hard. It wouldn't surprise me, and we'll predict it later, but it wouldn't surprise me if Florida State was like somewhat around after halftime. Like if it was like 17-6 or 20-10 at halftime. Like that wouldn't shock me at all. From there, it wouldn't also shock me if Miami scored 4 straight touchdowns to make it 48-13 final score. Like that kind of like the Florida game. Florida was kind of in it at halftime. They were right there within striking distance, and then the floodgates just opened. So one thing Florida State will have to do that they've not done a super great job of this year is stop the run. They average over 5 yards a carry. They are certainly a team that likes to get ahead of the sticks, and Mario is okay running the ball. Like he doesn't necessarily just look to go out there and bomb it deep with Ward every single play. Like he is okay running the ball, and they've got 2 really good running backs with Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher, who did a really good job of fighting through contact. Florida State has tackled better over the last several weeks, really. And so I think that's an opportunity, not to sound like Mike, an opportunity to get better every time you lose to an embarrassing team. But I do think that there is an opportunity for you to try and keep them in 3rd and long. The problem is that Cam is really, really good on 3rd and long. I mean, he's good all the time. But, if last week against Louisville, they were getting like 6, 7, 8 yards a carry on 1st and 2nd down, and it just put them into 3rd and very easy all day. And Florida State's defense is not very good on 3rd down anyway. If you let Miami be in 3rd and 5 or less, they will kill you. And, we're probably both going to predict that they kill us anyway. But I do think their rushing attack, like Mario's okay, like playing hard-nosed smash mouth football and not necessarily just like air it out 5 times. I don't know that they're going to throw a 75-yard bomb on the 3rd play of the game like Florida State did to open the game up in 2022 when Miami got dog walked down in their stadium. So maybe they will, because I just said that, knock on wood. But I think Miami's very comfortable just running the ball and running down their throat. I think he also remembers how much Florida State ran it in 2022. That counter play, like 70% of the time. Don't be surprised if Miami just runs us to death and really tests us on the ground, because I'm not super confident that we could stop the run either, which kind of worries me. You wrote this. They have the number 1 offense in the country, according to Bill Connolly's S&P. I think in total offense, they're like 1 or 2. And so, yeah, they put up a lot of points. They have a lot of points per game. Like they're an offensive threat for sure.
Yeah, and to your point, their rushing attack, what makes them so special this year is that they're not relying on any one running back. They got 3 guys, and really 4 if you want to keep going down a little bit. But Damien Martinez leads the way, Mark Fletcher Jr., Jordan Lyle, all over 260 yards, all 30-plus carries on the season so far, all very productive running backs. And, that's going to be a problem. Coming into the season, of the 133 FBS teams in the country, I bet all but maybe 6 or 7 head coaches would have gladly traded Florida State's starting 4 up front for whatever they had. And they've been okay. I'm not saying they've been terrible, but they've not lived up to the hype that we expected when it comes to, that front 4 on Florida State's defensive line. I think the linebackers shockingly have improved a little bit as the season has gone on. So they're going to have to be prepared for that. My biggest fear is, again, those third down plays when Cam Ward is so good at improvising and, buying time. The communication between the secondary and the linebackers, it just has not been there all year. And, while we've shut him down basically his entire career, Restrepo scares the heck out of me this weekend because I think he sees this as a redemption game for him, not just from the game 2 years ago, not just from the heartbreaking loss last year that they had, but just as a culmination of everything, saying, we've not beat these guys since I've been here, and I've not done my part. Now he has arguably the best quarterback in the country throwing the ball to him. I think Restrepo has a monster game this week.
Yeah, and again, I worry about us getting home and Ward just having all the time in the world. Excuse me, Dr. Pepper working. But their offensive line's good anyway. Like even if we had the defensive line we thought we would have this year, their offensive line has held absolutely everybody down. And so I will say, I still think we have the best defense they will have seen yet. And so maybe that can keep their score down a little lower. Maybe that can keep them out of the 40s. But again, you can have a great defense, and I don't think we have a great defense. I think we have the best defense they've seen so far talent-wise. But if your offense can't move the ball at all, it's hard to just keep putting them out there, kind of like the SMU game, where first half, yeah, you held them to 14 points. I'm not necessarily saying you do that this week, but you hold them to 14 points in the first half, and then they score 30 on you in the second half. And I know part of that was a pick six. Like, I get it. But that is my worry. I mean, so, all right, let's talk a little bit about Miami defensively. But first, why don't you give a little love to our friends over at Roback?
Yeah, definitely. So happy to be able to partner with Roback this year. We apologize, Roback, that the team is not good and people are not just buying up merch left and right, but we know they will continue because they make the best performance gear. Polos, hoodies, joggers, you name it. I'm actually wearing the Hesse Performance hoodie right now, that black one right there. It is one of the most comfortable hoodies you'll ever find. All of their gear is amazing. Use code DFNS20 and you'll get 20% off any first-time purchase. So make sure you load up that shopping cart. Again, that is code DFNS20 at roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Just because the team sucks doesn't mean your game day fit has to. We all look good on Saturdays, and just take advantage because this offer will probably not last super long. If you go to their website to try to order, they'll give you a first-time purchase at 15% off. But again, if you use DFNS20, you will get 20% off all Roback gear. They have college gear, they have performance gear, regular golf gear. If you're not feeling Florida State right now, so that's fine too, but definitely check them out. I promise if you order from them once, you will be ordering from them again.
So defensively, they have somewhat underperformed. You wrote that. And they've given up a lot of points the last 3 games. And
shout out Ed Lemix.
Say what?
Shout out Ed Lemix. He said he bought the hoodie. Love it.
Get after it, Ed. Let's go. Giving up over 30 points the last 3 games against all 3 ACC teams they've played, 34, 38, 45. That was against, again, Virginia Tech, Cal, who Florida State held to 9, and Louisville. They do. They will give up some points defensively. Now, again, their offense scores a lot, so you get more possessions. But again, that comes down to this is not a Florida State preview where you're trying to learn about the Noles because you unfortunately already know all of that. But it kind of worries me that, their defense is not their strong suit. Their secondary is, I'll tell you this, I'd take Florida State's secondary over theirs head to head.
Yeah.
The problem is Florida State's defensive line doesn't really get home. They don't keep teams off the field on third down, and they give up a lot of yards on first and second to make third down a little more manageable. And so, but defensively, I do think that they can be got if you have an offense that is somewhat competent. And again, Florida State has the worst offense in the Power Four. They have one of the worst offenses in all of college football. And so Miami being maybe a struggle at times on defense, like, doesn't even really give me that much hope unless Florida State can start doing the things that they have not done all year, like catch the ball, block guys, run through tackles, not get hit in the backfield. Like, we have the worst yards before contact in all of the FBS, 134 out of 134. And so, yeah, their defense can get got. I just don't know if we're the ones that are going to be able to get them because of how poor we play offensively. If this was a general preview, like just a Miami versus anyone, I would say, like, yeah, probably going to be a high-scoring game. Miami will probably give up 28 to 34 points, and if their offense is on, they're going to outscore whoever the other team is. I don't have a lot of confidence in Florida State being able to slow them down. You wrote something about Ruben Bain here. Obviously, he's really, really good. Simeon Barrow from Michigan State, who Florida State did try to get, couldn't get that done. Again, another portal whiff this year. He might be better than Bain. He's probably played better than Bain. I think he's been their best defensive lineman this year. They are loaded up front. I think they have one of the best front sevens in all of college football. I wouldn't say it's the best. I'd probably put a couple ahead of them, but I think they're top 5. And so, yeah, that front is nasty. Secondary is not great. So if you do kind of give the quarterback a little time and your wide receivers don't just have butterfingers like ours, worst drop rate in college football again, then I think you can kind of get them. But again, that defensive line is really good. And I worry about it. If Darius Washington isn't able to play, which I've continued to be told that he's not going to play, and I think that'll be confirmed soon enough, if nothing else, Saturday morning, that presents a massive problem, that front, against Florida State's pretty battered, pretty weak offensive line.
So I have a question for you, and we'll call this a little bit of a teaser. We'll give our score predictions in a few minutes after the pick six at the end of the show here. But if I could promise you that Florida State's receivers and tight ends and running backs would have no more than one drop the entire game, what's the max points you think this team could get to?
So, like, essentially no drops, like one drop. Okay, yeah. Like, so 21.
Yeah.
Like maybe 24 max, like they give you a couple of short fields. You have a nice special teams play or something. I can see 24-ish,
Just thinking he probably left, 14 points off the board last week on 2 drops alone, which it's just frustrating. And I think Duke has a better secondary than Miami probably.
Yeah, they play a little more sound. Obviously, I don't think they're as good up front, and so you have less time. Yeah. And what did Duke have? 6 sacks in the game? And so, like, if they had 6, lost. Yep. Yeah, if they had 6, like, is Brock or Luke or whoever plays, me or you, are we going to have enough time to actually throw the ball? To me, that's what. So, like, you could tell me that, and I might even buy that. I might even say, sorry, there's just one bad drop in this game, or one drop, period. And I might buy that. And maybe it's even for a touchdown. Like, it literally takes 7 points off the board. I don't know that we're going to be able to get the ball out enough for that to even matter. I struggle to think that Brock or Luke is going to have 3 to 4 seconds for guys to get downfield and have a detrimental drop. Now, dropping the ball on 3rd and 7 when the guy is a yard past the sticks, and that would have been an 8, 9, 10 yard completion. Yeah, I mean, that hurts too. But I don't even know. Drops are going to be a problem. But again, up front is kind of what I'm most worried about. So yeah, best case scenario, you don't drop the ball a ton. You're able to kind of capitalize on the plays that you are able to make. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to think that we would beat our season total of 21. It's hard for me, like, because Miami's defense, their secondary is not being good, but they're still better than like Boston College is. They're still better than Memphis is. They're still better than, a lot of these other teams we've not been able to score on. SMU maybe pretty comparable. SMU doesn't love their corners. Their secondary is better than Georgia Tech's. And so, yeah, their secondary is a weak point, like, nationally. I don't think they could match up with Bama or Georgia on the outside. But their secondary is not bad enough to, like, not be able to cover our wide receivers or not, So, again, it's not just the drops. It's that our guys don't really get open. They got open a couple of times against Duke. But, that's the other problem is, like, our wide receivers are it's not like Johnny and Keon are out there getting wide open, dropping the ball. Like, we're dropping the ball And like that's like the one time that they got open because everything else is just a contested
Yeah.
catch or a 7-yard slant that you've kind of schemed open or whatever. So I don't know what's your. I mean, I would stick with 21. I can't see us beating the Georgia Tech score, even if the wide receivers play fairly well.
Yeah, I say strictly offensive points. If we talked about it, if you don't have that big special teams play or a turnover, I think you're probably right. I may even say 17 just because they don't finish in the red zone.
Yeah.
Again, speaking to the importance of what special teams will be, but I got news for y'all. Miami's got one of the best kickers in the country, just like we do. So that advantage is nullified already.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in our offense, right? Like I think you got to score on some trick plays, you got to score on special teams, you may have to score on defense. You do have a good kicker. I do think, not trying to be funny, I do think Florida State has better special teams than Miami does. Just overall, I think Borregales is really good and he can boom it from anywhere. But I think Florida State's a little better in the return game. They're a little more sure. In punt coverage and kick coverage. I think they're a little bit better. I think Fitzgerald's a little bit better than Borregales. I think Mastromano's one of the best in the country, and he'll probably get plenty of practice on Saturday night too. So I do think special teams is an edge. It's just not enough of an edge to where you could say like, oh, well, our special teams is so good, like we're gonna pull over. I mean, yeah, we're great at blocking kicks too, and they've done a really good job of that this year and last year and the year before too. But I don't think it's enough of an edge to where you can like go out and beamer ball your way to a win. Like they're gonna be good. They're not gonna be like, holy crap, Florida, like there's not a Devin Hester back there, right, to pull one out, or a Greg Reed, or, somebody like that. Now, I mean, you do have some talent, right? So maybe that can make a difference. But to me, like you're going to have to be kind of unexpectedly good offensively to kind of have a chance. And you mentioned this, the way to score on them is to hit explosive plays, which, I tweeted this I think on Monday, with a sad gif of just like, I can't wait for the first time that we do beat them deep. And the guy just drops the ball. Like, I just can't wait to, drive out to the Skyway after that happens. Like you're up 3-0 or something. And Kentron, which he shouldn't even play, let's be fair, or somebody like beats him deep and we throw a dime and we drop it and Cam scores on the next play to go up 7-3, and you're like, well, I don't know that 10-0 was going to be enough anyway, but your chance,
It would be the equivalent of that game when Clemson just blew us out in Doak and we had the shirtless professor reading in the stands. Florida State, actually, people forget, had a lot of momentum early on, got them into a field goal, and then, of course, we rough the kicker and they score a touchdown and the game's over. So that's kind of my fear, if you can even get into that position.
Yeah, it seems daunting. I will say this. I talked to the Kev, right? Remember Kev from the roll up? He said, man, I still think Mike Norvell's like a good offensive coach. Like he didn't just forget how to coach offense. So, I mean, this is his ultimate test. Like scheming up something for this one is certainly a test. But, I think, a key to, we talked about like the path to an upset, right? Or the recipe for an upset. The path to a Miami win here to me is to just be fundamental. Like if they're just fundamental and they win the turnover battle and don't give up like 2 or more special teams type plays, like they're going to win the game. Like you need some things to break your way. You need to win the turnover battle. You need to do something pretty miraculous on special teams, whether that's blocking a punt or blocking a field goal and running it back or having a kick return. Like you need to have some of that stuff go your way, in my opinion, to probably to even keep it close. Second of all, like to even think about being close in the fourth quarter and giving yourself a chance. Confidence is a crazy thing though. Like if you stick around and can be around late, Miami's never out of a game. I think they were down like 25 with like 15 minutes to go or 16 minutes to go against Cal. Like they're never out of it. And so their confidence is, sky high too. But if you can figure out a way to keep it close, confidence does kind of carry over, and maybe you have a chance late. But again, I'm not really suggesting that that's a thing that could happen.
Yeah, and for the first time, probably since I've been following college football, really since they shut down the old Orange Bowl, this is going to be an absolutely electric crowd where we do not have 35% Seminoles there. Their fans have been buying these tickets up. Florida State does have a good contingency in South Florida. So I do think maybe 10, 15% of the crowd will be there. But the people that live in your Orlando's or Jacksonville's or Tallahassee's or out of state that bought tickets in the offseason, they've probably sold them on the secondary market, and they've probably all been bought up by Miami fans. This will probably be the most electric atmosphere Miami's ever seen in that stadium, with the only competition being maybe one of those Ohio State games in the mid 2000s, or the Ohio State game in the mid 2000s, or that Notre Dame game in 2017, because that was pretty electric. But Florida State fans are not going to travel. It will not be the usual split that it is at that game. I have a really good friend who actually officiated my wedding. He has season tickets to Miami. He did undergrad at Florida State, did Miami law. He could call me tomorrow and say, "Hey, listen, you can have my extra ticket. I'll pay for your Brightline ticket down. Let's just go to the game together." And I'll say, "Nah, man, I'm good. I have no interest whatsoever in going, even if it was a free travel and ticket. Just not
Yeah.
happening." And I consider myself more of a diehard than probably 90% of Florida State fans. That's just where I'm at on this season.
Yeah. If this game was in Doak, I would have I would go, right? Like I do all the big home games. But like, it's tough to think about going out of Miami right now. If this game was in Tampa, I think I'd go. If this was in Orlando, would you go? Somebody offered you tickets?
Yeah, if it was local, I'd go.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not.
It's the 8 hours of driving that goes with the 40-point loss that I probably can't handle.
Yeah, like I haven't gone into a game, and we'll get into our score predictions, against a rival thinking we have absolutely no chance, as much as I feel this week, since probably when I went to Tim Tebow's last game in the Swamp, when Florida State played there in 2009, where I knew we were walking into a buzzsaw, but I had a lot of really good friends that went to UF, and we would always go to the game together. I'd stay with them there. They'd stay with me up in Tallahassee. But just knowing I'm going to go to this game, but I know it's coming. And I haven't felt like this against Miami. Honestly, even when we lost to them 52-10, in the Mike COVID year when he wasn't on the sidelines, I didn't see that coming. This one, yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything else, but yeah, just a crappy way to feel heading into a rivalry game.
Yeah, tough to find a reason to go to this, if we're just being very honest. Yeah, I agree. I think, I talked to somebody that was at the game 2 years ago, Miami fan, said that it was like 30, 33%, somewhere in there. Florida State fans, like a good solid third of the crowd. It would shock me if this was more than like 15-ish. I think it'll be more than just your average road crowd. Like, I think there'll be more Florida State fans there than Virginia Tech fans were.
Just because of how many Florida State alum live.
Yeah, they live down there. They don't go up to Tallahassee a lot. Some people are just, I will say, like, Florida State's got a good traveling fan base that a lot of people went to Duke. A lot of people went to Dallas knowing what was possible there. And Florida State still travels fairly well. And there's a lot of people that go to every single Florida State game, home and away. And so, like, you'll get your 10, 15%, 20 max, right? But it's nowhere close to like what it normally is. So, all right, let's give BetUS some love, and then we'll do a pick six here. But if you are betting on any of the games, we talked about this was a 21-point spread, which is a lot of fun to think about as a Florida State fan. 21-point spread against Miami. You can do that right now. You can go bet on it if you like the Canes or you like the Noles to cover, which if you do, please be careful how much you bet. 150% bonus on your first deposit if you use the code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Your next two deposits are up to 125% bonus. All of that up to $2K. So obviously, if you deposit more the first time, you're getting the biggest bonus on that 150% sign-up bonus. Using, again, YouTube 150. You only have to enter the code once, and you get the bonus 3 times, which we appreciate them for hooking you guys up and hooking us up, also partnering with us this year. Make sure you bet responsibly. And again, don't put too much on Florida State if that's the way you're feeling this weekend. If you do, just put like $10 on the money line, and you'll be happy if we win. So you won't miss the $10 that much. Richie, let's do our pick six here. Some fun games, some more ACC games in the middle of the week, which are a lot of fun. Syracuse at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a 5.5-point favorite against Syracuse. I like Pittsburgh to win this game, but I think 'Cuse keeps it close with their offense. I like, even though they're at home, I like Syracuse to cover. I like Pitt to find a way to win close.
Yeah, I've toyed with the Syracuse on the money line. 5.5 it really is one of those trickier spreads. People say 3.5, 7.5, 10.5 are the trickier ones. I think 5.5 is one because that just screams backdoor cover. I'm going to take Pitt to cover. I just think they do at home on a Thursday night. ACC Thursday night games get weird, but I'm going to go with Pitt here.
Louisville is a 7.5 point favorite at Boston College Friday night. So another ACC weeknight game. What you like here?
Do we know if this is red bandana?
I'm not sure.
So
Red band-
either way, I love the hook here. I think I'm going to take Boston College with Louisville playing on a short week, and I think there's a little bit of a hangover from just the heart crushing loss against Miami in a game they should have absolutely won. And I think it's that old saying Jimbo said, don't let one loss become two. I don't know if they're going to lose, but I think BC keeps it within a field goal.
Yeah, I think I like Louisville here. So I'll disagree with you again. I think I think they match up really well with BC. So I like Louisville to cover, but it wouldn't, nothing would surprise me on this one. 28-20 Louisville. I'll take them to cover by the hook. Notre Dame -12 at Navy, a top 25 matchup you have written here. It's a neutral site game. I will say that. So it is in New York. Thoughts on this one?
I love the story of Navy. One of my best friends who I saw over the weekend, he played at Army. I was talking to him about the game, and he's like, Navy's good, but he's like, one thing I learned when I was playing at Army is when you play against a real school, just the bodies are different. And, I think I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover the 12.
Yeah, I am too. I think Navy's a great story. I would love for Navy to get this upset. But
I'll be rooting for Navy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an American and a Baptist. So yeah, of course I'm rooting for Navy twice over.
Well, good on Navy getting a prime time slot. I know it's at noon, I think, but still I think it's ABC or
big game, fun matchup. There's not a lot of ranked matchups this weekend.
No.
So, but I think Notre Dame covers and wins going away. I think this next one is a get right game. I don't know about get right. I think it's a get back game. I think Bama blows Missouri out. I think Bama's had a lot of frustrations and stuff. They're a 14-point favorite. Games at home, I think they win and win going away against Missouri. Missouri they should have lost to Auburn last week. If Auburn wasn't just the kings of, blowing games, I think they would have lost that one. So I like Bama to cover this 14.
Yeah, we're going to differ again here. I'm going to take Mizzou. I think, I've gone through enough seasons with Florida State, just back to 2017 where every week I'm like, all right, we're going to get back on track. We're going to get back on track. We're going to get back on track. Even early 2016, we're going to get back. We're going to get back. At some point, you got to remove the logo from the helmet because I think if that were a different logo than that A on the side of the helmet, people would look at this game a little differently. Maybe I'm crazy here. I do think Bama wins the game, but I think their fans walk away frustrated saying, did we make the right hire? I think some of their fans are already saying that because they have beyond unrealistic expectations after having Nick Saban. But I think Mizzou is physical enough to go in there and compete and make this a fourth quarter game and lose by maybe 10 points or so.
Texas is an 18.5 point favorite at Vandy. I think the Vandy Cinderella story is quickly coming to an end. They nearly lost to Ball State last weekend, and I think that Texas is just absolutely pissed off and ready to annihilate anyone they can after losing to Georgia. I expect Texas to play better. I don't think Vandy can match up defensively. I like Texas to win this really big. I know that's a massive spread, but 18.5, I'll take the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'm going to take Texas as well because Arch Manning is quickly jumping up those Heisman odds, and I think Sark would love to be able to sell that story. And I think if they have the chance to blow out Vandy, especially with the credibility they have so far this season, again, Vandy's in the top 25, so our only other top 25 match, I believe. We have one more coming up last, but yeah, I think Texas wins, and I think if Sark has the chance to run this up, I think he does.
The game of the week, in my opinion, and a game that I am very thankful. Thank you to the football gods that this game is on at the same time as ours.
Yes.
LSU at Texas A&M. A&M is a 2.5 point favorite. They've really played well under Mike Elko. They haven't lost a game since that opening loss against Notre Dame that opened up the Elko era there in Texas. The game was at Kyle Field, was in their home field, and they lost. I like LSU to win this as money line me. I like LSU to go in and win. I think they're playing really well right now. I could see LSU being a playoff team. I like the way that they've kind of rebounded after their opening week loss to USC. Both teams both teams lost their opener and then haven't lost again since. So I actually like LSU to cover and win the game outright.
So question for you before I answer that one. We mentioned it's the same time as Florida State Miami. What would the halftime score have to be for you to just get rid of the Florida State Miami game entirely? Or like, what would the point spread have to be? Would it be 14 points, 17 points, 20 points? Where you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to make this the sole focus of my Saturday night, this LSU A&M game, because I do think it is the game of the week. For me, I think if it's 14 points or more and Miami gets the ball to start the third quarter, I'm probably done with the game.
Terrible to say this on a preview. All right, so let me be very fair and say that with the 3 TVs set up outside, I won't get rid of the Florida State game. I will just move it off of the big screen and onto a small screen and make the LSU A&M game the volume and the one that I like kind of care more about. Now, Florida State's in the game. If they have a chance, if they haven't gotten blown up, yeah, like I will keep it on. I won't do that. But so for me, I am cheating. And really nothing that could happen. Like we could be down 56-0, and I probably would just never take it off one of the small TVs because I still like to be informed so that I can talk about it the next day and not have to go rewatch it later and ruin my Sunday morning. So, but yeah, so nothing could make me turn it off completely because of the 3 TV setup. In a normal situation, yeah, kind of the same as you. Once you get down by 21, 28, it's over. So like why, go to a game that you're going to actually enjoy watching. Again, I get to cheat a little bit because I just kind of will flip it to a smaller TV if that ends up being the case. So,
So I just have the one TV in the living room. It's a 70-inch, so I use the YouTube multi-view. But I would have a hard time keeping it, both games on, or if there's another close game on, I might just turn off that Florida State game. I hope I don't have to. My Sundays have been great. I've been waking up every morning watching the condensed game. The one good thing the ACC does is having those 25-minute condensed games. Watch that, hate myself, go to church, feel better. It's all great. But as far as this game goes, I just think Kyle Field at night, we always give them crap, right? About, the practicing the yell at midnight, but the day of the game. I think Elko might be the better coach, but Brian Kelly's a more experienced coach in big games like this. I hate to agree with you, but I think LSU goes in there. It will not be easy, but I'll take the Tigers in this one.
Yeah, I agree. So, appreciate BetUS for their support on the Pick 6. Hey, if you're watching this, we'll predict the game right now. But if you're watching this and you haven't already, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. You can thumbs up the video. You cannot. Either way. We appreciate you for tuning in. Even if you're a Miami hater, we appreciate you here as well to hang out and watch us just be miserable. Also, let's do this. Okay, we'll do this, Hunter. Let's throw Hunter's up there, Harlan, real quick, and then we'll keep that in there. You can play a sound. I'm not depressed yet, so play it up.
Touchdown, Florida State! Touchdown, FSU!
I'll add a bet. Over under 1.5 touchdown passes dropped by the Noles. I'll go under on this, and I'll even give you the caveat of if a pass is dropped at the 5 and the guy clearly would have gotten in, that still counts for Hunter's bet. If it's questionable or there's 3 defenders around, then we won't count that one. We're not going to count a guy to pull a Peter Warwick. But I'll still go under on Hunter's 1.5 drop touchdown passes. But again, that's not because I think the wide receivers somehow just learned how to catch over the weekend or the coach learned how to actually coach them. I think that it's more so that you're not going to have those kind of opportunities against a Miami defense that you maybe had against a Duke defense. So I'll go under. Richie?
Yeah, especially if we're talking strictly balls in the end zone, the under is an easy bet here. Now, if you take it down to 0.5, I'm probably taking the over. So I think you set a really good line here. Because, again, the opportunities may not be there, but I could see Miami with a busted coverage where you have a guy drop a ball that you could reasonably say that would have been a touchdown or that could have been a touchdown. So not even a definite one. I'll take the under 1.5, but I do think there's one pass drop that we will all look at and say that probably should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll take the over on 0.5, but I'll take the under on 1.5. So, all right, Harlan's got 51-17. So against the number 6 team in the country, Harlan has us scoring the most points that we've scored in the United States this year. So shout out to Harlan for the optimism. Appreciate that. Richie, what do you got for a score here?
Yeah, my biggest fear is that, you have a lot of South Florida guys on this roster. This is a huge game for Darryl Jackson. I think he comes out fully motivated. Joshua Farmar, a lot of these guys, I just hope that they don't let their emotions overcome them to the point where we start getting stupid 15-yard penalties, because that's how a game snowballs. So I think it's a frustrating season, but these are older guys. I think the defense plays well enough to keep them under 40, but the offense just does not do enough. But I think the defense plays better than some people think, even with a Heisman Trophy potential winner at quarterback on the other side. I'm going to say 34-13.
The thing I worry about is Florida State gave up 500 yards of defense or offense to Clemson. And I think Dabo, because of the way they played against Duke 2 years ago, I think Dabo understood that field goals could beat this Florida State team. And in fact, Cal nearly did it if they didn't miss, 2 or 3 field goals.
Yeah.
And so I think that Dabo understood that and understood that he doesn't have a super dynamic offense. And so he was willing to settle for field goals. I spoke with Clemson folks after that game, and they said that they were frustrated because they felt like Dabo got conservative once they got into the scoring zone, 30 or closer. And I said, well, I mean, you might have been frustrated by that, but I think Dabo knew like Florida State cannot score enough to beat you. And so take the points when you can get them and live with the result. Like, be conservative there inside of the red zone and live with what happens. I don't think Mario will do that. I think he'll be more aggressive. I think he'll go for it at times on 4th down, just because I think he knows that Florida State's offense can't. Okay, you got 4th and 4 on the 20, and you go for it and you get it. You're scoring a touchdown. You miss it. Who cares? Florida State's going to get a 1st down maybe and then punch you the ball back. And so I think Mario will be more aggressive. I don't think he'll settle as much for field goals. Now, I don't think he'll be going for 4th and 15s on the 35, or anything like that. But I do think Mario will be more aggressive. I think he'll try and run it up if he can. I think the losses of Washington and others make me really concerned about Florida State being able to move the ball at all. So yeah, I'll go like 42-9. 42-9. I don't think we score an offensive touchdown. I'd love to be proven wrong on that. But if you can't score one on Duke, I ain't picking you to score one down in South Florida against the top 6 team. 41-9, Miami wins.
Fun.
This was the least. Yeah, this was not a great, a very enjoyable episode, but we did show up. We did our part. So hopefully the team will show up. I will say, I could see it being close for a half. I think Florida State will come out fired up, trying to do everything they can. I think Mike will pull out all the tricks that he can in the first half, and maybe that'll keep it close within 10 or 14 points at halftime. I don't know that they can hold on for the whole game. I'd love to be wrong on that. Certainly would love an upset in this one. Just don't really see a real possibility of that. Maybe you have a 5 or 6% chance of pulling an upset here. You're just severely undermatched. And, you didn't tune into this preview thinking anything else other than us predicting a loss here. So if, I don't know if anybody's really surprised, but it is what it is. So, hey, I appreciate, again, Roback. I appreciate BetUS for their support. Make sure you go deposit with them using YouTube 150. And of course, Guthrie for their support over the last 4 or so years. Hopefully better times coming, but we'll see, man. For this Saturday night, again, make sure you have that LSU Texas A&M channel close, because that'll be a fun one to watch, and maybe you can kind of distract yourself. So, Richie, Harlan, I appreciate you guys a ton. We will talk to everybody on, I might get on here Saturday. Who cares? Maybe we'll do a call in Saturday and you guys can vent after the game. So appreciate you guys as always for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.